it's going to be up.
Oh, this is the first time I can recall seeing that. Okay.
Zoom just
Okay.
updated.
So now we are live on Facebook as well for Havdalah with a bonus. And it's good to have everyone with us. And I am going to highlight you, Rabbi Rachel, so that as you begin, everybody can follow you.
Okay.
And if the rest of us would mute, that would also be good. So if any of our animals make sounds, we won't be disturbing your story.
Okay. So this is a story about a baker. And he did fancy work. So at one point he was leaning over a 6-tier wedding cake he was decorating, his face scrunched up in concentration. Flour, swag, flour, swag, ... on his hands, smoothly squeezing the icing bag. Yes, he thought, this is the best work that I've done. And there was a awestruck crowd outside who were watching him because it was so fascinating to see him work. Then all of a sudden he heard this gasp of horror. The people outside had noticed, which he hadn't, that his sleeve had accidentally wiped across the cake. A masterpiece ruined, the crowd murmured. But Nate merely shrugged and turned the smudge into a bouquet of perfect sugar roses. The crowd outside applauded what he had done, and they bowed in every direction, not noticing that there was a big glob of pink frosting on his nose. That night, he came home very late, later than usual even, and collapsed into bed. Nate, his wife Elisa said sleepily, will you be home for dinner Friday night? Oh, can't. Oh, my little cupcake, he answered. Too much to do. First, all those carrot cakes and apple tarts, a pause, and then snore. The next morning before the sun was up, Nate was already hard at work sprinkling cinnamon on some sticky buns. There was a sharp tap on the door, so sharp that Nate was startled, and he dropped the cinnamon can and it went all over the place. He looked and he saw a girl from the neighborhood outside the door. Sorry, I didn't mean to bother you, she said as Nate opened it, sneezing and coughing. I just wonder if you have challah for sale. Nate said no, brushing the cinnamon out of his hair. Sorry. But when he closed the door behind her, the word challah settled into his mind like powdered sugar on a donut. He could almost taste the delicious challah he used to make with his mother. The crust was golden, firm but not hard, and the inside was so eggy it was more like cake than bread. Suddenly, Nate was filled with such longing that he decided to make a few loaves right away. The yeast was bubbly, the flour was smooth as silk, the loaves artistically braided. When they came out of the oven, Nate saw they weren't right. They just weren't right. And when the loaves cooled and he tasted them, he knew he was correct. The challah wasn't bad. It was okay. But it wasn't the bread that he remembered from years ago from his mother's table. He thought back. He could almost see it, where the bread was kept under a golden embroidered challah cover on the table. It seemed forever to take his mother to light the candles, and then the kiddush his father sang went on and on because he couldn't wait to taste the challah. Then finally, it was time to pull away the cover, braided loaves patiently waiting for their blessing. Nate said the motzi himself, and then finally he could have a bite of that sweet, chewy morsel. Oh, such deliciousness was worth waiting for. Nate suddenly realized he was standing in the middle of his bakery drooling. Oh, how embarrassing, he said, wiping his mouth. To make it worse, I can't even remember this simple recipe for my mother's challah. It would have been so good for business. As he tumbled into bed late that night, he meant to tell Elisa that he'd been trying to make his mother's challah. but he was so tired he could barely open his mouth to talk. Lisa, he mumbled, his eyes already shut. Sweetie pie, what about challah? What about what, dear? His wife said. Challah, I think there's still some left, but Nate, snore, had already fallen asleep. The next few days, he could think of nothing but challah. Every morning, he woke up and eating his pillow in anticipation. At breakfast, he sprinkled poppy seeds on his cereal, and all day long, he baked nothing but challah. Big challah, small challah, round challah, braided challah, poppy seed challah, sesame seed challah, and my personal favorite, challah with raisins. By Friday, every shelf of the bakery was filled from floor to ceiling with challah. In the middle of the bakery, Nate sat there rubbing his chin and lost in thought, wondering why none of these challahs were just quite right. He was so deep in concentration that when there was another tap tap on the door, he jumped off his stool, upsetting this time a dozen eggs in the process. It was the little girl from the neighborhood again. Her face brightened when she saw the huge collection of challah. Nate stepped aside, wiping up the mess from the floor when she was looking to make her choice. She inspected the loaves one by one, squeezing, sniffing, poking. But instead of picking one, she turned to Nate and asked sadly, "Have you run out of your mother's challah already?" "Did you say my mother's challah?" Nate said. "How did you even know about that?" "My family had Shabbat dinner with yours a few weeks ago. The challah was so delicious. Your wife said she made it from your mother's recipe, so of course I thought you'd have some in your bakery." She looked around, shaking her head. "You have a lot of nice things here, but they're not what I'm looking for. I want what your family has every week at home." Late that afternoon, Nate closed his shop early. When he arrived home, he opened the door cautiously and peeked in. Elisa was blessing the children, whose face gleamed in the light of the Shabbat candles. The table was set with the prettiest dishes and a silver glass cup of wine. But Nate's eyes were immediately drawn to the gold embroidered cloth that covered a platter in the middle. Before he could say hello, before he could even stop himself, he rushed to the table, yanked the cover off, and saw his mother's challah. "This is it," he said. "It's just right." The children, who were surprised to see their father home so early, because he never got home early, rushed to hug him. Elisa kissed her husband with an amused smile on her face. "Yes, Nate, it's just right," she said, "but you're a little too early for the motzi." "Elisa, how can this be?" Nate said, smoothing a challah cover over the golden loaves and weakly tumbling into a chair. "I've been trying and trying and trying to make my mother's challah, but I just couldn't do it. And here it was in my own home." "Don't you remember," said Elisa, "when we first married, your mother gave me the recipe and the children and I made challah every week." She ruffled his hair, dislodging a few chocolate chips. You've been so busy with the bakery, you've never been home to celebrate with us. But Shabbat has been here all along." For the first time in years, Nate enjoyed a Friday night with his family. He sang the Kiddush. He really tasted the food rather than just rushing through his meal. He cuddled his children. He talked quietly with Elisa after dinner. His worries melted away with the candles. Finally, feeling completely relaxed, he fell asleep in his chair. When Elisa roused him to go to the bed for the night, he was startled until he remembered he didn't need to do anything or go anywhere. A day of rest was beginning, and everything he needed was right there at home. So that's a little, thank you. That's a little bit for, I used to, when I was in rabbinical school, refer, and still do sometimes, but refer to Shabbat as my sanity day, which was a day to kind of just forget about everything and just relax and enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going, just a moment, I'm going to share the Havdalah blessings in the chat so that we can all do them together. I thought I had some of it ready to go, but it didn't go yet. So I'm going to try it again now. And then we'll be able to make Havdalah. And then because we're in Elul, I thought it would be nice to also sound the shofar afterwards when it's not Shabbat. Traditionally, you don't sound the shofar on Shabbat, though we do if Rosh Hashanah falls on Shabbat. But I thought I would sound the shofar for us tonight, since we're not together for morning services during the week, and that would be a nice way to remember the month of Elul as we continue moving through it. I invite those of you with candles to light your candles. It's nice enough I don't have my air conditioner on, so the candles should blow pretty nicely and burning straight. We'll see. Please join with me in sanctifying the fruit of the vine first. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen borei peri hagafen ya la 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 ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minei v'samim borei minei v'samim. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei me'orei ha'esh borei me'orei ha'esh ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamavdil ben kodesh lechol ben or lechoshet ben yom hashvi'i l'sheshet yemei ha'maseh. Baruch atah Adonai hamavdil ben kodesh lechol. We take another moment to savor Shabbat before we then put our candles out in our fruit of the vine as we say farewell until next week. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hakiladi, Bimera V'Aminu, Yavo Eleinu, Imashiach ben David, Imashiach ben David, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hakiladi. I invite you to unmute to sing Shavua Tov with me. Shavua Tov, 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 a good week, a week of peace, make gladness reign and joy increase. A good week, a week of peace, make gladness reign and joy increase. Shavua Tov. And we will be back here the same time next week. So I'm going to say goodbye to those who have joined us on Facebook and wish you all a good week. Oh, before I do, on the shofar, before we say goodbye to them, and you'll have to let me know. I didn't do original sound, so I hope this will work.
We got part of it, Rabbi, not all of it.
Okay, and I was doing it towards the computer too, so you got a little bit of it. I think I have to do original sound next time, and then you'll be able to hear it better. So,
Okay.
we have the whole month to get it down, right?
Right.
So it was the first week.